Hey everybody, this is Calvin from Calvinomics. Hopefully you enjoy this episode. I think it's episode 5. I've been talking about tariffs, and it is February 24th of 2026. Just in case you haven't been following the news, which it's all over the place, so I'm sure you have, the Supreme Court a few days ago struck down the tariffs that Trump had just all of a sudden seemingly blanketed all over items. Now, there are tariffs that are not going to be struck down, they're going to stay implemented. However, that's like stuff that had been done pre-Trump, most likely underneath the first Trump term, then carried under Biden, and then Trump did it even more so. If you remember one of the episodes I talked about, Trump's tariffs equated to be about the sixth largest tax increase in U.S. history. I couldn't find my source, but then when I was working at the radio station at Tech State University, I remember that being an article and from Forbes or Reuters or something, but I can't find it anymore. Who knows? Maybe it's not true. However, the tariffs did have a large impact during the first Trump term, and now the second. As you can see here, let's go to the debt clock. I always like doing this debt clock. I'm really big on this. I almost want to start every episode with the United States debt clock. And one of the things are this tariff revenue. As you can see, it's still going up, even though quote it's been struck down. And obviously, $374 billion. All of a sudden, they're saying, yeah, you might have to repay that to companies or exporters or whoever pay them. I mean, you and I pay them as individuals. Here it says revenue per taxpayer, but that's if it's broken down across the country. Of course, we don't have 1-year-old babies paying $3,247 in income, tariff income. So, but we need this revenue because our debt is so huge, which is why I think the tariffs came in place. I want to make this video short, about 10 minutes or less. I want to get to the point. So, the other day, the Supreme Court struck down the tariffs, and in 2025, this is in addition to what was already collected. There's about $200 billion had been collected in additional tariffs in that year alone. That's additional. I've seen this number range from about 169 to 250 billion, somewhere around there, but let's just stick with right in the middle at 200 billion. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be lawsuits. Trump got mad, 15% on everybody. Okay, that's just not realistic. So then I looked at this website. You have to do some digging because if you just say tariff rates, I don't know why I'm incognito, but just whatever. Tariff rates, USA, or let's say tariff rates against Canada, okay? And then a complete list of U.S. products, which is the counter tariffs. So then, actually, that's kind of funny that because I haven't done this one, but then you just see a lot of news: trade war, this, trade war, that. I wanted, for some reason, I've been hearing South Korea a lot. Maybe because one of the presidents just went to jail for life or whatever, ex-minister, the guy who did the martial law, and then they kicked him out, and then now he's supposed to be serving life in prison. But if you just do tariff rates against South Korea, there's an AI overview. I mean, it's okay, but the thing is, it's pulling from so many sources. Then it's a bunch of news, videos, news. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. You really got to do some digging. So South Korea, I looked at this. Basically, you have a tariff lookup tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of click this out. I found this as soon as I go over one page. I'm going to leave it. So here is an overview of U.S. measures and tariff table 2026. Okay, and it looks like South Korea 25%, lower to 15%. However, that may not be true because that was a year ago, and it's going to jump back up because of what Trump did. We're not going to talk about that. I was just looking at a bunch of articles. So when there are exports, there's a thing called a harmonized schedule or harmonized codes. Basically, it labels a product coming in and going out from a country, and a lot of countries sign on to it. That way, they know what something is being labeled as well as how much the tariff should be on that product. So I found as I was searching, and sometimes you got to go to South Korea does a value added tax of 10% on imports based on customs values plus duties. So Korea has this value added tax, which is what the European Union does. It's kind of similar to a sales tax, but not really. So I found this whole schedule. I mean, this is 1,400 pages. There's no way I'm going to go through it now. I don't even see that even loaded properly. When I click out of this, there's another one that I'm going to go over. It's actually a lot. United States Korea Free Trade Agreement. So in 2012, I mean, this has been going on for a while. But in 2012, it was like expanded, right? Barack Obama. And it basically outlines a bunch of code, bunch of regulations as well as a tariff schedule. So I was just looking this up. So you ever see HS code, harmonized system? It's HS code for your product, just to let you know. That's from trade.gov. And then I was just looking at another one. So the U.S. will reduce 232 tariffs on automobiles, auto parts, timber, lumber, and wood derivatives of South Korea to 15%, which is kind of where it's at now. This is a Korean trade agreement right here. And then it talks about pharmaceuticals as well. And I was just basically double checking all this stuff. So right here is one of them, ustr.gov. South Korea's average tariff on industrial goods is considerably higher than the average U.S. tariff, 6.2 compared to 2.8 in key sectors. South Korean goods enter the United States duty-free, while South Korea maintains tariffs as high as 8% on U.S. products, such as medical equipment and aircraft. So then they want to talk about elimination of these tariffs. 95% of the U.S. exports of industrial consumer goods to South Korea. There you go. Beyond tariffs, from South Korea can develop product standards, blah, 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 blah. So there's another thing just saying that South Korea did have higher rates than we did. So I just Googled what tariff rates does South Korea have. You almost have to get to page 3 to find anything that's worth something. A lot of it's just news, 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 and it's the repeating of things. But once you kind of get to page 3, I actually found something interesting. Korea tariff schedule right here. So I loaded this up. I don't know exactly what date this is from, but from when I Googled it, it was from 2022. Now it says 629 schedule in English, Korea English. It's not authentic, but I don't really know what that means. So if I just Google this, I usually pulled it up. It's obviously not 2026, but I had a hard time actually finding where this originated from. But what I did find is from 2022. As you can see here, base rate, this is the harmonized code labeling these items. And this is a tariff schedule, so the base rate is basically the import, the tariff. Some are at 8%, you like horses, and you got cows, beef at almost 90%, unless it's 90 cents, which is what I was also thinking, because it makes more sense with this. So when Barack Obama signed the free trade agreement with Korea, or expanded it rather, is already kind of going since the early 2000s. You could see that some of these, here's the codes again, labeling these items, that the way what was supposed to happen was that over time, a lot of things would become free, back and forth, import and export, no tariffs. Some things did get to that point, some things were falling, but as you can see, not everything had become free. Some things were just falling in the amount. So I actually think this might be cents, the base rate, and it might be on kilograms. So however they do that. So for instance, if I take this code, I can select it, oh geez, copy, HTS, type in the code, harmonized tariff schedule. Looks like this is not containing added sugar. It looks like it might be cheese. This is 046. Rejecting that. 046. 2030. Let's just put 31, which would be, I don't know where 31's at. Oh, here it is. Okay, 12.8. Event that when it goes to free. Described as a use note. See, there you go. And it looks like this category. Okay, so I remember this. So basically, it has the category, and then when you have CS 0406.20, but then once you have the last two decimals, it then classifies the actual product that it is. Okay, I'm looking at my left screen. That's why I'm over here. So if you see me looking this way for a prolonged amount of time, that's why. Okay, so as you can see here, grated cheese or powdered cheese of all kinds. And it fell over time. And you could do this. However, when Trump came in office, some of these things probably were maintained. He's like, hey, don't see this all going on. And there's a lot of other things that are kind of happening. I was reading about how South Korea takes its steel and then stamps it that it's made in South Korea and sends it to us, but it was in fact made in China. So they basically take it from China, stamp it with themselves, and send it over. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, because then Trump is like steel tariffs. So in 2022, the U.S. Chorus was fully in effect with 95% of industrial goods entering the U.S. duty free. Most tariffs in South Korea were eliminated, with remaining duties phased out on the specific agricultural products, cherries, potatoes, and certain dairy products like cheese. So maybe it was getting there, but then something had occurred, or whatever Trump said, or whatever he found out, he was like, 15%. Okay, but they're still going on. They're talking about this is the old article here, 2012, March 19th, 2012. So here we go, U.S. Korea Free Trade Agreement, Chorus. So this was written by Carolyn Gleason, David Lee, 5, 6 people. All right. So there you go. It's, as you can tell, it's not just like, hey, here's a tariff, here's a tariff, here's a tariff, 15%. Because then what? You actually have to dig into it. Some things are free and then they're not. Or they were free to begin with, but now they're not because of tariffs. Or they were becoming free and then the trade schedule got messed up. But as you can see here, this is 224 pages, and I think this might be measured in cents. But even if it's not, or kilograms. But as you can see, their base rate was very, very high. Like I said, I don't remember. I don't know when this was. It even says it's not authentic. However, it's on page 3 of Google. Even that when you go to the very, very bottom, hope it says it. Hope it'll load. 220 pages. Here we go. So at the very bottom, talks about this. Codes, year 10, cheddar cheese will be duty free. This looks like it was actually true. So this might actually be correct. Because if you looked at that last page, it was the price of cheese of all kinds was going down. So this actually might be something, this might be from 2012, but I cannot verify that, or at least in that range. Or maybe even 2000, no. Because that's 2009, but then they get 2103. So who really knows? These are probably just, these are, this is the product. So as you can see though, this looks legit. However, it was hard to find. It's not dated other than 6/29, so June 29th of some year. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's very interesting stuff. I like digging into this. If you have any questions, let me know. Obviously, you're probably left with more questions than answers. But as you can see, with Trump kind of picking on South Korea, which is our ally in many ways, their tariff rate was pretty high. And it was high for a while. Well, there was one thing that was really high. But then again, this is also measured in their currency. So if it's just do South Korea currency, and actually that's going to be the next topic. I'm actually talking about the silver, South Korean won. And so there you go. That is their currency. That's probably what this is measured in. And then if we got to calculate and so on and so on, I'm just not going to do that because, sort of what's the point? They used to have some, now we don't. However, with Trump going on and doing the things that he's doing, everyone's sort of left in limbo. All right, well, thanks for watching. My next video is going to be about silver, the prices of silver, and actually we're going to talk about that maybe for a couple of videos. Thank you for watching.